Good morning, Michael.
You cut the music off first. I've never heard you do that.
I did. I don't know. I just thought maybe we'll try something different today. Maybe once we cut the music off, people are like, okay, I'm perking up. They're ready to come on.
It's time.
So how are you? You had an accident last night.
Yeah, well, we can talk about that later, but we were coming home from golf tournament, state golf tournament. So we
oh gosh.
My oldest goes to OCS. They finished second, runner up.
Oh wow, okay.
So
wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, played well. So
that's nice. All right, well, then we will dispense with the pleasantries this morning. And we will start in with talking about our guest this morning. Our guest is NeAnn Clinton, and I was asked to go to a OK2A meeting in Garfield County just recently, not very long ago, to talk about dark money and other things. And so I went, and at the end of the meeting, NeAnn stood up and talked about this solar farm that's coming to Enid. And I listened, and I spent a lot of time doing this.
Yeah.
And it's very upsetting. And I will say this. We have had, between biosludge, wind farms, and now solar farms, we have had just people skyrocketing watching the show for those particular issues. And don't you think, Michael, that people are understanding that this isn't about green energy now?
I hope so. You know, it's so crazy to think and about how, you know, we're so crazy on all this green stuff and the technology that we have here in the United States on diesel, on our coal plants, we're so clean. The scrubbers and things we have when it comes to actual pollution is minimal. I mean, absolutely minimal when it comes down to pollution compared to other countries like China and India and places like that. And the amount of solar that those guys are putting in is mind blowing, because we keep up with it because it affects the silver market. And solar, you're looking at China, you know, I think last year alone, they put in 240 gigawatts of solar. And this year, it's already up 33% this year.
Good same night.
With India put in like 70 gigawatts of solar last year.
Well, and you know, we need to talk about where the materials come from to create these solar panels and how they're mined, and you know, all of the detriment that is to the environment that we don't talk about. And I used to say a long time ago, and I should still say it, we should just all pool our money and get people to just pick them all up and then drop them in Sri Lanka for, you know, a month. And because we are in a bubble here in America, and we just feel like, you know, we are so much harder on ourselves than we are on any other countries who are just doing what they need to do to survive.
Yeah.
And it's unrealistic and ridiculous. But before we get into all of that, I do want to bring in NeAnn, because she has got, I mean, I really honestly do believe this will be one of the best shows that we've had, and just be so eye-opening. So good morning, NeAnn. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Like I said, I was so excited when you said you would come on, because I was very upset by your presentation in Garfield County. That really upset me. And so are you a native of Enid?
No, my husband was active duty Air Force, and we came to Vance Air Force Base in 2007. And when it was time for him to retire, we decided to buy some land and stay here and finish raising our children.
Oh, and as we talked about, I grew up for my first 7 years in Enid, and my family was all from there. So I have kind of a bond to that place. Love the downtown, just Oakwood Mall. I mean, all those things. But anyway, there was an interesting thing that happened in Enid. And I can't even remember when it was, but I remember my ears perked up because there was a group of you that kind of took over your city council meetings and really kind of shook things up. What happened there?
We did. Well, it was during the 2020 pandemic, and we had one city council member that wanted to mask the entire city. And I don't live in the city of Enid. I live in the county, but I go to church in the city of Enid, and I go to our social events. We go to restaurants. Everything that we do is inside Enid. So I joined in the fight when our residents of Enid wanted to fight the mask mandate. And we just banded together and we started going to the city council meetings and voicing our opinion and protesting that we were not going to be masked, and we were not going to participate in any more shutdowns.
And didn't you get some city council members elected or something, or how did that play out?
So out of that, we were able to get 3 of our city council present city council members elected out of that.
So this brings to the forefront something that Michael and I both talk about a lot, but I really, really pound this hard. So many people will talk to me about federal politics, and I just anymore, I go, keep talk.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't care. That is a cesspool. It's gone. I mean, it's gone. But for right now, we have what's under our feet. We have our cities, we have our towns, we have our conservation districts, we have these things. And you've just shown us, I mean, that you have an effect over areas. If we don't start taking those stands and taking those parts back and just not worrying about what's going on at the federal level, I mean, everything will be completely lost. It's already, going to that, it's rolling downhill as it is.
Yeah.
So you were already involved anyway in the city council stuff. You somehow found out about this solar farm thing. Explain how that happened and all of that. I want to hear that.
Yes. So a friend of mine was watching the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission meeting, which is one of the commissions that is a commission that is made up between the county and the city. The county can join in with a city of a certain size, and then they have jurisdiction over the 3 miles from the city limits to the county. Inside the county, there's 3-mile zone that they participate in so that the best use of land can be decided on and by this planning commission. Well, a friend of mine in February of 23 was watching this planning commission and said, "Did you see what happened at the MAPC tonight?" And I said, "No." He said, "You need to watch it." So I sat down and watched it, and it was
let me just interject. Was this during COVID? So you were having to watch it on like Zoom or something?
No, the city records. The city records and puts on their website all of their meetings.
All right.
And so you can go back and watch the replay. And so I went and watched it, and It was about the solar complex, and I saw in your intro that you put north of town, but it's actually south of town.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
No,
sorry. Pardon me.
No, I saw that yesterday. It's like, oh gosh, I need to let her know. But
She's a boob.
it's just south of town.
Okay.
And it was NextEra Energy, and they wanted to use 5,000 acres of county land owned by private citizens to put in solar panels.
Okay, so let's go back because I want to make sure. NextEra Energy.
Yes.
Okay. And they wanted to buy.
No, they are surface right leasing.
Okay.
Land from landowners to put in a 5,000 acre solar complex.
Okay, so they're just like the wind farms. They're going to private individuals then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so, some of the people, it was actually kind of happenstance that the people that live in that area actually saw it because it was a use by review. All they were required to do to inform the public that this was coming up at the meeting was to put up the signs on the roadway,
a
4x4 sign with a piece of paper stapled to it.
Right.
That was the only notice that they had to give to the people that live in that area. Well, one of the gentlemen stopped and read it and called his neighbor. And so they showed up to speak out against it. Praise the Lord. Our MAPC voted not to approve the project.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because they found the application to be deceptive and the company could not answer the questions that they had for them.
The application by NextEra to the Planning Commission was deceptive.
That's what one of the commissioners said.
Interesting.
Yeah, he said, I find this deceptive and you're not answering our questions. And so they
kind of like the wind farm people.
Yeah, well, they do wind. They do wind too.
Sorry, I'm just trying to drive that point home because I think all of us, I would hope all of us anyway, would agree that if you have to lie or be deceptive about what you're doing, then probably we should all be up in arms about it.
And question. Yeah.
So Freedom Oklahoma Steve has asked, where is this? So we'll say again.
Yes.
Go ahead, tell him.
Oh, just south. So he's wanting to know where it's going to be.
Correct.
Okay. So it is going to be just south of the city of Enid. The project lies between 16th Street and 54th Street. And then I believe Fox Drive and Wood Road, if you know this area. So that's it's like 8 square miles is where it's going to be placed or proposed to be placed. Okay. It sits 1 mile south of our municipal airport, and it sits directly between our airport and our Air Force Base.
Okay, so this was the thing that this was one of the first things that you said, and I was like, what the what?
Yeah.
Because was it your husband that was a pilot or other pilots had told you?
All of our friends are pilots. Well, most of our friends.
And what did they say about the placement of this solar ranch?
That it is not a good idea.
Because
it is detrimental to the pilots. It could be detrimental to the pilots.
So when they're coming over, all this light coming off of these glass panels makes them go, there's a place I need to land somewhere.
Well, and so the argument we have made that argument several times because we actually have a public trust here. It's called Vance Development Authority. And it was a public trust set up in 1994 when Vance Air Force Base was on the base closure list. And so its job is to protect the Air Force Base. And so we have, spoken with them and spoke at their meetings, and the company and the city officials, and the city owns the municipal airport. So the municipal airport has signed off on it. They all say that there will be no glint or glare from these panels.
have any of them actually have any of them actually seen a solar farm?
I don't think so, but you know, I can't say for sure. I mean, I don't know if anybody in
That's
this
kind
area.
of like saying dogs have no fur. I mean,
Yes,
unless you've never seen a dog, you'd go, "Oh yeah, okay, dogs are
right.
all hairless." I mean,
Yes.
that's so ridiculous. If you've ever seen a solar farm, the light is awful. I mean, it's
Mhm.
like and you can feel it.
Well, and so the other thing, the other argument that we have, and this is well documented because I mean, we have done a lot of research in the last year on all of this. But one of the well documented subjects is that these attract birds. And we are in the western flyaway zone for geese and ducks and several other species, but they attract birds. So birds will mistake them for a body of water, or if they don't mistake them for a body of water, they will nest under them sometimes. And I don't know if you've seen what a bird can do to an aircraft, but I have, and there was a helicopter, that was just taken down by a goose. So we have geese and ducks flying through here all the time. Increasing that can also be a hazard factor to our pilots.
Well, and let me just turn into my old biology self and go, and when they fly over, they turn into crispy critters. So
Yes.
just like the wind turbines catch those birds and just knock them to the
Yes.
ground, the solar panel is like it's like bird fryer.
Right. Well, and
Air
these are a
fryer.
little bit different. I know there's some out in like the Nevada desert that do that. These are a little bit, they're not as bad as those because those are directed radiation or, I think, but these do increase the air temperature above them. And some studies have shown 8 to 10 degrees. So if you are a new pilot, because this is a training base, if you are a new pilot and you hit a pocket of warm
I
air,
didn't think about that. You go.
yes. So turbulence increases and, on your lift increases, all of that. So the city and the airport and the gentleman who is the executive director of the Advanced Development Authority say that it won't be a problem. So that will have to be seen if this project is built. We'll have to see if it's a problem or not.
Well, let me ask you this. So you've done this research, and NeAnn, you've already corrected me about the bird part on these particular solar panels. So you have clearly done some research here. So these people who are just going, "Oh, it's all fine." What research are they showing you to indicate that what they're saying is correct?
Their research, the FAA doesn't really have any strict regulations on these. The FAA does recommend that you don't put them on final approach to an airport, which these will be on final approach. So they do recommend. The argument is that the FAA has signed off on it and has said that it won't be a problem.
Oh my goodness. And I hate to do this to you again, but I'm going to go back off onto another subject, which is we just talked about biosludge the other day. So until just very, very recently, the EPA was saying, "Oh, we're not really worried about it. That's not a problem. We're not, it's all good. Don't worry about it." And now all of a sudden EPA has come out screaming their hair's on fire. PFAS. So I just don't trust any of these governmental organizations that are saying, "Oh, it's okay."
Yes, exactly.
Right?
I mean, I thought we all learned that in 2020, but maybe some of us are slow learners. I don't know.
Michael isn't. Don't ask Michael about COVID.
So that's one aspect of this whole thing. The other aspect is that they want to take 5,000 acres of productive farmland out of production. This is not the desert. these parcels are being grazed or planted as we speak. So it's not fallow land that you can't do anything with. This is productive farmland. Our ranchers and our farmers will be, hurt by this. The local co-ops will be hurt by this because people won't be planting. They won't be buying seed. They won't be buying pesticides or fertilizers or, any of that kind of stuff. So one of the main reasons that the city of Enid is backing this is the promise of $65 million injected into the community. Well, when you dig deeper, I mean, that was at the beginning where they were like, oh, it's $65 million in increased tax revenue, right? So when you dig deeper, if you look at NextEra's website, it says $65 million over the next 30 years.
Okay.
And when we ask them where that comes from, it comes from ad valorem taxes. That's where they're getting that calculation.
No.
Really? Wow.
Yes. Yes. So they're
okay. Then we need to stop on. Hold on one second. Let's explain that because people don't. That's why they use the word ad valorem. It's a property tax.
Yes.
So these are the people who own this property would have been paying that anyway.
Yes, it will go up a little bit
it's going to
because
increase.
now it will be commercial. Yes.
But still in all.
Yes, exactly. So where is this injection of money coming from? And so they also promise up to 200 temporary jobs, but we know that the temporary workers are not going to be local because they're not trained to install these. And so so the city is thinking that they're just going to make all of this money because these people are going to be staying in hotels and eating in restaurants and buying groceries. But I don't know if the city knows that most of these guys pull a camper behind their truck and go from site to site. And they eat, frozen meals or sandwiches or whatever in their camper at night. They're not going to be out spending all kinds of money in our community. And then after NextEra says 2 to 4 permanent jobs after construction is complete. So that's what our county is getting out of this. Not to mention that none of the electricity that is produced will remain in Garfield County. It will all be sent west to the Western Oklahoma Farmers Co-op.
How in the world? Okay. So let's recap. So 1,000 acres is going to be taken out of farmland production.
Up to 5.
Up to what?
Up to 5,000 acres.
Oh, good grief. Okay, so up to 5,000 acres will be taken out of production, thereby negating the sales tax and any of the other taxes that are going to be produced when the farmer actually produces food from that.
Yes.
And the solar panels then are going to be installed so that you can get just a slightly more property tax than you would have previously.
Yeah.
And you won't get any electricity from the project because it's all going. What are you griping about, NeAnn?
I know.
Sounds like a heck of a deal.
Right? I mean, we sound like we're just going to be getting the pie in the sky here. We're getting everything that we asked for.
I mean, honestly, who would fall for that?
Yeah, I know. Well, so the part of the problem, and this is one of the things that I wanted to tie in with your wind talk. So this is just like the third step, right? It started with the transmission lines. They came in and built the transmission lines for the wind. Then they came in and built the wind, and now they're coming behind that with solar. And so they're all connected. They're all interconnected. And and so they all work together. I've been warned, talking with people in other states, that the next leg of this is going to be the Bitcoin mining, where they bring in the big complexes that all they do is sit there and use this energy to mine Bitcoins, which is, beyond my scope. But that's what I've been told is the next thing that will happen. And so, our landowners, we have some friends that live in this area that will be surrounded on 3 sides by solar panels. When the temperature increases 8 to 10 degrees on all 3 sides of their home, what's going to happen to their electric bill?
Well, and I'm going to go back to a comment that Freedom Oklahoma Steve said. These solar farms create their own weather front. And so, and you could absolutely think of that. So even if you're stuck in the middle and you're a farmer that's planting corn, let's say, I mean, I don't know how do you expect to get the same yields on your crop that you would have without the bizarro temperature?
Exactly. Deal. And so, and then, when the temperature increases, it changes the moisture of the soil.
Oh, yes.
And, so we're looking at all of these scenarios. Of course, nobody else is, it's the farmland will be just as it was 30 years from now when they remove the solar panels, right? That's what they say. So, so we're looking at our friends that are going to be living in the middle of this. And then, they say that, well, solar panels don't make noise, so they're not noisy because, if I'm surrounded on 3 sides by a solar complex, it's going to be noisy, but they say that the solar panels don't make noise. Well, those solar panels are run by inverters. So if you go to YouTube and you Google solar complex inverter noise or, something like that, there's actually 2 videos on our website. One of them shows how much noise they make. And these people are putting them next to homes. These are people in Garfield County that purchase land outside of the city limits in the county because they wanted to build their forever home and have the quiet enjoyment of their land. And that
let's show people your website because I do want to make sure we get that in.
Yeah.
So here's your website, but then also I want to touch on what Susan just said. Ask yourself why the electricity is being sent to Western Oklahoma where they're inundated with turbine energy.
Right. Yeah. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So the other argument that we get a lot is, well, it is the landowner's right to lease his property to be covered with solar panels. And my argument to that is, and I am a huge proponent of landowner rights, right? Personal property rights. I own property. I want to enjoy my property. But if my neighbor is doing something on their property that infringes on the enjoyment of my property, then I think that I also have a right to speak out against it.
You do.
There are lots of things that I can't do without permission on my property. When we built our home out here, we had to get an inspection and a license from the state of Oklahoma telling us what kind of septic tank to put in, right? I couldn't just come out here and dig a hole. So where are my property rights there? I can't walk out my back door and shoot a deer any day of the year that I want to, because there are laws that say I can only hunt deer certain times of the year, and I have to purchase a license to it, even though I own the property and it's on my property. So where are my personal property rights there? So when the personal property rights discussion comes up, I'm like, yes, you should have the right to do with what your property until it infringes on the right of your neighbors or the entire community. Because with the lithium battery fires, we're putting the entire county in danger if one of those lithium batteries sets off on fire, and we can't fight that.
Well, I'm going to flip back to here because that is something that I did want to, you actually address that specific thing on your website. And I'll be honest, when I saw you in Enid, I had no idea about this. So would you mind kind of elaborating on that a little bit?
Yes. So what
is that the right website? Do I have the right site on there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, sir. And there's videos. The videos are embedded down there under the no, go back up, Jenny.
Go back up. Okay.
Yeah, under this picture. So if you look at where the wheat is, There's videos on there of what these actually look like in other states. And this one right here, this gentleman shows you where the sound comes from. And I mean, if you look at that, who wants to live next to that? I mean, that's what thousands and thousands of acres of solar panels look like.
Okay, I'm going to say something, but I just finished reading A Brave New World, and so I feel emboldened to say it. You know, I do think that part of the thing that Marxists do, because I think all of this is Marxist, I think that one thing that Marxists do is that God gives us beauty as a way to connect with him. I mean, I get goosebumps saying that because, you know, those of us who live on a farm, or those of us even who enjoy good symphonic music or beautiful paintings, you feel that, you understand, and you kind of get that connection, and you think, oh my gosh, look what God made for me to enjoy. How wonderful is this? I even wrote an article about that in the Federalist one time.
Yeah. They're going to start talking on there. You might want to, I don't know if you want to stop that video or not.
If you decide that you're going to do this
Yeah.
to the landscape, then what does that do to your ability to really enjoy the landscape and have that? You can't look at that and go, oh,
how
God
beautiful
gave us that beautiful solar farm.
Yeah. And we call them solar complexes because it's not a farm. Nothing is being produced for consumption.
That's a good point.
You have to change the wording because, oh, it's a farm. No, there is nothing being produced on there for human consumption.
Excellent.
To increase. Okay, so where was I?
Fires.
Fires, thank you. Okay, so I mean, I know most people have seen, you know, the Teslas catching on fire, the electric cars catching on fire. Well, you cannot put out a lithium battery. It just has to burn out, right? The only thing that you can do is put water or foam on it to keep it cool enough so that it doesn't catch surrounding things on fire. And so we actually saw last summer in New York, they had 3 lithium battery fires at these solar complexes, 3 different ones last summer. And one of them was in Lyme, New York. Well, and this is how God just, you know, puts people in your path. One of the gentlemen that was a volunteer fire department at our volunteer fire department here, Pioneer Skelton, is from New York. And he worked with the fire chief that was fighting this lithium battery in Lyme, New York last year. So he gathered information and he came and spoke to our group. The video is on our website. But this solar complex had been in operation for 4 months when this fire
4 months.
4 months when this fire happened. And what they do is they put one lithium battery, the ones that are up there, in a connex. So they have all of these connexes stacked next to each other on the stand. And one of them kicked off. The company did not show up for 8 hours after they were contacted that this fire was happening. But lithium batteries put off a toxic smoke plume. So they had to evacuate homes or shelter in place orders. They had to close down roads. They had to do all this. It took them 36 hours on a ladder truck. They were at the top of a ladder truck putting water down on this lithium battery. 36 hours at 1,000 gallons per hour in full hazmat gear. And at the end, they used 2.1 million gallons of water. They live, because it's New York, they live by a river. It's called the Black River, which feeds into the St. Lawrence River, which is a large river. Yes. They were pumping the water directly out of this river to fight this fire. And Jenni, I know you've been up here. We don't have rivers that large running through Garfield.
No, you do not.
Yeah.
And it's flat as a dang pancake out there.
Exactly. And the place where they're wanting to put this solar complex, there's no fire hydrants. It's volunteer fire department only. the city of Enid has 2 ladder trucks, but if we're going to tie one up for 36 hours, hopefully nothing else happens in the city of Enid.
What's the population in Enid now?
Like 50, between 51 and 52, I think, thousand.
Mm-hmm.
And
not a small place anymore.
Yeah, no, I know. None of our volunteer firemen have full hazmat gear. And he said, the fireman said that one of those oxygen tanks would, in the weather, you know, in the summertime in July, because this happened in July in New York. In July in Enid, Oklahoma, it's usually 110 degrees, somewhere between 100 and 110 degrees. The tank, the oxygen tank would last the firemen about 5 to 10 minutes, and then they would have to switch out. And so we're looking at the cost of a fire. If a fire happens out there, you know, last year we were in the middle of a drought.
Right.
And if one of those kicked off and it took time for people to notice, I mean, what if it starts a grass fire? Correct. We had the fires, you know, out in Texas and Western Oklahoma, 2 months ago in March. We could see the smoke from there all the way to Enid. I mean, if that happened, if that large of a grass fire happened here, there are homes that, you know, are right next door to where these lithium batteries are going to be. So we went to a meeting the other night that NextEra hosted and asked a bunch of questions, because we had heard that the battery storage was going to be between 30 and 50 acres. You know, we had never gotten an answer.
Good God, just the battery storage.
Just the battery storage. So they told us the other night that the battery storage, the connexes are going to take up 20 acres. And then there's 10 acres for the electric, the substation. So 10 acres of substation, 20 acres of connexes filled with lithium batteries. And so if one of those caught on fire, we would have to close down the municipal airport and the training at Vance Air Force Base, because the pilots would not be able to fly through the smoke plume. We would, you know, it just depends on how fast the wind is blowing and which direction it's blowing that day. Because we get winds, you know, 30 miles an hour all the time.
Yeah, which is why you have so many wind farms out there now. I remember the first time I came back to Enid after quite some time, I just spent probably 10 miles crying.
I know. It is just absolutely horrific.
That used to be such pristine, beautiful. You'd see the waving wheat, you'd see the cows. Yes. It was such a beautiful drive in. And now at night, all you see are these freaky, beaky red lights going everywhere, like it's demonic or something. And then you coming in, all you see are these things slashing at the landscape. It's just ridiculous. And you think to yourself, who are these people that are buying that this is better than what we had before, which was farmers working the land God gave them to create food for the people around them? It literally makes no sense. But I want to go back to something you said, because I thought, oh my gosh, here's yet another connection to what we've been talking about with the biosludge and the wind farms and everything else. So if one of the only ways that you can put out fires, NeAnn, is through foam, firefighting foam has been shown to have the highest PFA count by far of anything out there. Yes. And as soon as that stuff hits the ground, especially in dry little Garfield County, goes right down, percolates right through the soil, and now bada bing, your water table is contaminated. And you guys are over the Ogallala, aren't you? Out there? Yes. So it goes right into the aquifer, which then these PFAs plume together and they go through the aquifer and then just contaminate everything else. And these are cancer causing chemicals. They know they are. That's part of the reason why we're fighting biosludge out here in rural Oklahoma County and Lincoln County and all of that. So I just want to point out that while these people are saying, oh, this is green and we're saving the planet because, you know, oh, you're not saving the planet. You can't recycle any of that wind farm stuff. You can't recycle any of this battery stuff. You can't. How is this any better? Explain it. I want to know. Somebody chime in.
Well, yeah, and it's just not. None of the components in this are better. It's just not. The only thing that it is it's a way to launder money. That's just what I say. That is my point.
And steal people's property, because if you can take their property away from them, you pack them and stack them and do the whole,
Exactly. Because these are
you'll eat worms and like it.
The only money that is the only profits made on these are from the federal subsidies.
Yes, just like wind farms.
Exactly. They're collecting the federal subsidies, and then it doesn't matter if they make a profit because they've already made their profit. You know what I mean? And so and then one of our members actually called after we found out about the ad valorem taxes. One of our members actually called the state tax commissioner and was asking questions about these. And they told her that, yes, it would increase the taxes on the land, but and most of the contracts state that the company will pay that increased tax so that the landowner doesn't have to. But then the company litigates that amount. And they keep it in court for so many years that most of these companies haven't paid that ad valorem tax because they're litigating it and having their lawyers fight that the amount is too much or you can't tax that. Because I don't know if you saw the Supreme Court decision, the Oklahoma Supreme Court decision on the wind turbine.
What was it? Tell me.
So all of these, wind turbines were coming in and saying, well, your schools, this is for your schools. It's for the children, right?
It's always for the children.
It's always for the children. But then these companies fought them in court and said, well, you can't tax us like that because this is federal subsidies and you can't tax federal subsidies. So the amount that the companies promised was shrunk, and most of the schools have seen very little benefit from any of the wind, because they fought that in court because they didn't want to pay that. And the Oklahoma Supreme Court decided on the favor of the company. You can only tax certain things, and it can't be federally subsidized if it's, blah, blah, blah. But that happened in 23, I think, early 23 or late 22 when that came down. So your schools are not seeing this tax money. And your children are not benefiting, but that's still what they will say when the mayor of Enid talks about it. Well, this is going to benefit the rural schools, and we're like, no, it's not. And the school that he says it's going to benefit, most of the school board members have signed our petition against it.
Good for them.
Yes,
I love that.
Yes.
Good job, guys.
Yes, exactly.
Yay.
So they don't want it. And the fire hazard for them, like I said, it just depends on which way the wind's blowing that day.
Yeah. And everything else on top of it with the, the foam and the firefighting foam and the water and the everything else. So I just wanted to ask a question, but let me back up just a second. You've shown over and over again that what these companies, or what this company specifically has told you, has been wrong. I mean, they'll tell you one thing and then you can find out that it's totally different. I'm tying that back into the wind issue and the podcast that we had with the McComases in Lincoln County. This is the same thing that is happening with these wind turbines. They promise, say they're going to give you the moon and the stars, and you get bupkis, but your land's gone.
Yes.
And you have, the crazy, blinking of the lights on and off. You have the rumbling underneath the ground. You have everything else that goes with it. this has got to be brought to the forefront. This is an absolute travesty. It's not transparent. They're not telling us the right thing, and it's not for green energy. It's not to help us. This isn't helping anything.
No.
It's way more of a detriment to our communities, our lives, our health, our property than anything that we've had before, including coal and oil, which relatively coal and oil are God-given
natural
bio-made things.
I know.
There are bacteria that break them down. There are other things in the fungi that break them down. Nothing breaks this stuff down. It's all made from components deep down in the earth.
Yes.
That are huge polluters when you bring them up, that hurt people that mine them, like tungsten, for example.
Yes.
And you can't even conceive of how badly it's hurting people overall, including the miners, that mine it and all of that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to put, I guess, that exclamation point on what you're saying, because this is ridiculous. And
and even like Michael mentioned the silver a minute ago, we have done some research on, because they say that you can recycle solar panels. Well, they send these solar panels to small African countries and have children or other people dig the silver out of these panels. So then they're coming in contact with all of the cadmium, the aluminum, the lead, all of the other things. But when they recycle them, that means somebody using other labor to dig the silver out so they can recoup the silver.
Wow. When you're looking at a 30-year lease here, NeAnn, is that what it is?
Yes, it's a 30-year lease with a 30-year extension option.
Wow. And then do they think these panels actually are going to last 30 years? I mean, I think the useful life out of a lot of these panels is only like maybe 10 or 15 years kind of max.
Yeah, it's 10 to 15. Yep.
Wow.
Go ahead.
Well, what still gets me about the whole deal is the incentive side that they're talking. I mean, I have a problem with, here's another private company that's probably somewhat unregulated, unaccountable. I mean, at least like your local public utility, you can go down to the office and yell about, talk to someone at the city at least. Capacity about it, but you've got another private company plugging into the grid, which I think is going to be a security issue.
Yes.
But the kicker, the whole deal is, okay, you're going to get $65 million supposedly out of ad valorem taxes, which are ultimately probably going to come out of the own pocket of the people of Enid in some capacity through their taxes being raised. I mean, it's just insane.
It is.
So
two things.
Our friend Whitney.
I saw that. Yes.
According to the ethics website, NextEra Energy PAC has contributed more than $750 million to our legislators. I love what she says. The only green thing about this is the money. Whitney, you are awesome. Go, girl.
And so you can go to the ethics website, and one of our people put it on our Facebook group the other day. So 3 of the ones that are here that are over Garfield County, their top contributor was NextEra. If you look at their contributions.
So here's what people want to know. So they're like, okay, so what? Here's what happens. And this is what they're finding out in Lincoln County with the wind turbines and everything else. So let's say you say, oh my gosh, we don't want this here. And you go to your legislator and you say, please help us stop this here.
Yeah, we've done that.
Oh, wait, you just voted for me, but these people have contributed tens of thousands of dollars to my campaign.
Yes. And
see where you are in the pecking order?
Yes. And we've talked to them, and what was I going to say? And they say there's nothing they can do to help us. The Oklahoma is the Wild West for these people. They think that they can come in here, and I just saw what Susan said, and that's exactly what I tell people, Susan, is that they come in and they rape and pillage like Vikings coming in here. They take whatever they want, they do whatever they want, and everybody stands back and says, there's nothing we can do about it. And so we have talked to our legislators, and then we pulled up their ethics reports. So we knew exactly what was going on there. But I don't know if in Lincoln County, if the people, I can't remember which company is it that's going into Lincoln County.
Oh, shoot. I don't remember, Michael. Do you?
No.
Hey, anybody who's watching, put it in here. It's not NextEra.
No, it's not NextEra. But I don't know if anybody's looked into that company and their holdings. But if you look at NextEra Energy, and they're out of Florida, their two largest stakeholders are Vanguard and BlackRock.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And there's, and you just keep going.
Well, we're going to get off of here now, because that just explained everything. So,
And so, I mean, usually I don't have to say a whole lot more than that. I just wanted to save that to the end, Jenny, But yeah, Vanguard and BlackRock are their two biggest stakeholders. And so, again, where is it coming from?
Oh, Susan Morgan says Enel and Apex.
Okay.
I think it is Apex in Lincoln County. I think she's right about that.
Yeah. So I would look at their stakeholders. I mean, and that we can't do anything about it, but at least BlackRock. There you go. Susan said BlackRock. That's where it's coming from.
Well, and I think if we, so many people. And we have a lot of people on here today watching, because people are getting it. I really do believe that people are getting it, and they want to know how. They know it's bad, but they don't quite understand how or why it's bad. So they can't put everything together, which is why I think so many people are watching this morning, because they're like, I just want to know, just explain it to me so that I can go out and explain it to my neighbors and say, hey, but so many times, those of us who have been red pilled, for lack of a better phrase,
yes,
you go out and you talk to people about what's going on. Well, yes, they pay people, these people who create all of this poop from our sewage, they pay farmers to put it down, which gives them a subsidy, so they don't have to go out and spend, tens of thousands of dollars, depending on their acreage, buying nitrogen farming, buying nitrogen fertilizer, even though all you have to do is put some cows on there. It's a great cycle. You put the cows on there, the cows poop, the cows put the stuff back in the soil. Then you go ahead and you use the cows for beef, then you come back and you use the wheat and you send that off. It's a great cycle, but we don't want to do that. We're always having a shortcut, because like Whitney said, I'm going to get a t-shirt that says the only green thing about this is the money.
That's awesome. It is. And what I tell people, why are people doing this? And this is the love of money. The only thing that is driving, the especially here in Garfield County, is the love of money. And that's the driver of all of it.
Well, I think so. What is your plan? Because we're coming up on the end of an hour here, and we do need to get Wendy in for just a minute. So tell me, what is your next plan? How can we help you? I mean, hopefully we'll get this video out. I'd like for you're welcome to take it, download it. I'll make some clips out of it today that you can, post places. We've got to get people to be more aware of, and Michelle, it's actually not money that's the root of evil. It's the love of money. But yes, you're correct. Yes. Because money is good, money makes the world go round. It's only how much you love it that makes you choose to do things like be not transparent, want to, swindle other people, that kind of stuff. Yes. So what can we do to help you get the word out? What are you doing to make this stop?
Well, like I said, we have petitioned our local electors or local officials, elected officials, from the city to the county to the state. We have petitioned them by emails. We've made phone calls. We have done what we can as citizens, as the electorate. So nobody is willing to help us at the governmental level. And so we are banding together to do what we need to do for Garfield County. And so our website, just sharing our website would be awesome. We are collecting funds for our fight. We are a 501c7, I believe. So we are a nonprofit, but your contributions are not tax deductible. But we are pooling our money and our resources for the fight ahead of us, because our governmental officials are not willing to help at any level. And so if you feel led to contribute to that, that would be great. We're doing that. None of our volunteers receive any money whatsoever. We are all just trying to do this to, save the future of our county. We have got to save our farmland for future generations.
But they don't want us to have it.
I know.
That's what I was going to say about the conspiracy theory stuff.
Yes.
You look at BlackRock, they own all of the food companies. Yes. Look at what they own. They own all of these manufactured food things. They don't want us to have access to land to grow our own food, because then they know we would grow clean food that's not going to make us sick and want to go, oh, whatever you do to me, I'm just too sick to be able to do anything. But Michelle says true. Yeah. How do we get our farmers to stop selling out? And NeAnn, we forgot to mention something.
I know.
How many of those landowners that are considering signing these leases are Oklahoma residents?
So there's one in Garfield County, and it might be a little bit different than the other counties. There is one landowner that owns most of the parcels. He owns like 2,000 or 2,100 acres just by himself. And so without him, the project probably would not have been able to move forward. 3 or 4
is he a resident of Garfield County?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
because that's not the way it is with the wind, with so many of the wind.
Well,
and so much of this other stuff. These are people who own the land but don't live there, so they're not the ones that are going to feel any of the effects from it.
We have 3 or 4 of those. They're trusts or children or grandchildren that have inherited the land and they don't live here. So we have 3 or 4, but they're they only own like a quarter, like 160 acres, and they sign theirs up. But we want to, so our coalition was put together. We want to help conserve our land for our future generations, and, talk to these people before the contracts show up in their mailboxes and just say, this is very detrimental to the land. I know that you think that this is going to give you and your heirs money, but you're destroying the land. And we have, I have children, sons that would love to come back here and purchase land and ranch or farm, but it's just so, when you're covering the land with these kind of things, that land will never be used again for agriculture. It will destroy the land, and they say that it won't, but it will. Just the chemicals, the runoff, they're going to scrape off the topsoil, just all of the different things that happens. It will change the land permanently. So for our children, the buzzword, but we seriously mean it, for our future generations, we have to protect our agricultural way of life. So we are collecting money for the fight. One of the things that one of the other people told me was they had mentioned maybe a statewide coalition at some point. I have talked to people in Lincoln County and Pontotoc County to share information, and we're a little bit. I have learned so much over the last 4 years of dealing with city government and the open record, open meetings, open records. So there's certain things that I know to do if something happens So we have put in several open records requests and we have found some very interesting information on those. So if anybody needs help with that, but even just watching the agendas and the things that come out of those meetings, yeah, I mean, we just have to be diligent. But if we band together statewide, then maybe they would have to listen to us.
Well, and I'm going to even say this because I've said this before on this program. I'm warning Synagro right now, the company that dumps this human waste out here.
Right.
The next time they try that in I will chain myself to their vehicle. I will do it, or I will chain myself to the ground. I will make them have to kill me to get onto that property. And because we're in a situation now where if our legislators are getting kickbacks from these people and they can't protect the people that they're elected to represent, which is their only job, then the only thing we have is us. And until murder is, they start giving legislators money so that they can commit murder, I guess the only thing we're going to be able to do is to use our bodies as shields for this kind of thing, which would then hopefully generate enough interest, to in others to see what's going on. So I hate to be, Whitney said last podcast, Whitney said she thinks she's just going to become a revolutionary. There are no party, she's not a Democrat or a Republican. I'll just be a revolutionary. And I'm like, I think there's something to that, because at what point when the system fails you to the point that your own elected representatives won't do anything to help you, what choice do you have?
I know.
So
yeah, well, there's there's no regulation there, there's no zone, we get all of these excuses. I'm like, okay, but let's try, let's try this. And if it doesn't work, then okay, then we try something else.
So in closing, and I do want to have you back on again. We'll probably at the beginning of the fall season of the podcast, we'll have you back on, see how things are going, just like we'll do with the, the humanure and all of the things that are affecting us right now. But I wanted you to talk about, just briefly before we get off of here, you found this because you saw this at a planning commission meeting. What do you do to stay updated on these organizations that are doing things around you, and name off some of the organizations so people can be watching for those in their own counties?
Okay, yes. So in the Open Meetings, Open Records Act, there is a stipulation, I believe, that that if you request to be on the mailing list for the agendas, then whenever an agenda is generated for anything, they will email it to you automatically. So I called the city of Enid and got on the auto list. So I get every agenda for every commission, every city meeting. And so if it's one of interest, then I can look on it. And I also did that with the county clerk. So I get those agendas automatically sent to me. So for us right now, this is the big thing. We also watch the budget talks. The budgets are coming up right now in Enid, and so we stay on top of those. But right now, this is one of the big things. But we did notice on the county commissioner's agenda several weeks ago, in January, that they were going to be discussing a road use agreement with Skeleton Creek, which is what they're calling it. So we were like, whatever, it's a road use agreement, right? And so these are the things that people have to watch out for. Then one of our members read it and brought it to us and said, there's some really interesting stuff in this. You should read all of it. So we sat down and read it. Well, we found that there were paragraphs in this road use agreement that had to do with the county commissioners approving the project and agreeing not to write any zoning or code or anything else against the project. Well, that was not stipulated on the agenda. So I contacted the county commissioners. I'm like, look, boys, your agenda did not state what this contract had in it, and the Open Meetings Act requires that your agenda be so clear that the people in your county can understand what it says, right? So I said, this is a void contract. According to the Open Meetings Act, this is a void contract. And of course, in that contract, it said that the county could not cancel it. They had to have, it had to be a mutual agreement between the county and the company to terminate this agreement, right? And I said, well, that will not stand because this is a void contract. It is invalid. It was done incorrectly. You did not inform the public of what was going on. So they're still looking into that with the district attorney. That hasn't been decided yet, but they did have on the next agenda that they were going to amend it. And I said, there's no amending it, boys. This is a void contract. You need to start over. So anyway, just all of that to say, if all of the people that are fighting this, the Attorney General's office holds trainings on Open Meetings, Open Records Act. That's where we found, that's where we got trained on this information, was the Attorney General's office going around doing this. So if you have an Open Meetings Act training coming to your area, go to it because it is golden. Our legislatures are required to be transparent and do everything they do in front of the public, and except for just a few exceptions. And so that's where we as citizens can take back some of what is supposed to be going on in these meetings.
Well, and let me point out too, you talked about your county commissioners. These are the races. These are the elected offices that you need to be flat on top of. Your
Yes.
county commissioners, your planning commission, your city council.
Yes.
I know in the case of Luther, for example, the planning commission, because we're so small, the planning commission is appointed by the city council, but the city council is elected by the people. The county commissioners are also elected, not appointed. But you need to find out if the planning commission is appointed, then you need to figure out who's appointing them, and you need to go back to those people who are elected and make sure you find somebody to run against the people who are doing this to you. Find somebody to run against the county commissioners. Don't even worry about what's going on at the federal level or even what's going on at the state capitol. If they're just going to get all of this money, you can control those smaller elections, make that happen.
Yes. Oh, and I wanted to make a point about that, Amigo. We were talking about our elected officials and getting the money from these companies. Two of the elected officials in our area whose top contributors were NextEra did not even have anybody opposing them in a race.
Oh, no.
Yep. Just FYI.
Oh, that's so disappointing.
They don't even have an opponent. So, but they had, contributions just in case.
Well, we're not going to get disappointed. We're not going to get down, because what we need to do is grab these things by the horns and make sure that we're taking care of them. Even like I said, if it's to the point of, playing, what did they used to call them? Eco-terrorists or something, where you chain yourself to the machinery. Yeah. I mean, it's so weird to think that these things would be coming back the other directions. Right. Isn't that so bizarre? I mean, when they were spiking trees to save the owls, and killing people who were, actually chainsawing down the trees, it's oh my goodness. Nobody agreed with that. But then at this point, we're like, well, now what are we now? And rabid environmentalists? I mean, this is just so bizarre.
It is.
Welcome to Upside Down World.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's so upside down, Jenny. Where are all the environmentalists?
Well,
on this
wind farms and all these deals. I mean, where are they?
Supporting
Good point, Michael.
Yep. Supporting it. Yep.
Because it's green.
Yep.
And I don't know, somebody who said it was either Michelle or Susan back in here where they made a really excellent point about, come on, why aren't we even paying attention to what the damage this does to the animals around it? I thought that's what we cared about. So,
well, and the wildlife is one of the other questions that we had, because they're going to put a 6-foot fence around this. And so where, so it's going to mess up all of the paths that the wildlife take.
Well, maybe they can build them a little path between the,
right.
Well, NeAnn, God love you and the rest of you who I know are on and who are fighting this in Enid. God bless you guys, and hang in there and know that you've got a friend in us. And, if you need to get some information out, please let us know. I'll be happy to, to help do that. And I know Michael will too. So please let us do that. And keep in touch, and we'll get back with you in the fall and see how this is going. But good night, people. You stop worrying about the feds. Quit it.
Yep.
Pay attention to what's going on under your feet. That's where the food is.
Yes.
Hello.
Agree.
Unless you want to eat, what are they? Bug burgers?
Crickets.
Yeah.
Crickets, bug burgers. Yeah. If you want to do that, keep on with your bad stuff. Keep on and,
Agree.
All right. Well, NeAnn, God love you. God bless you. Thank you so much for being on. Yeah. I truly appreciate that very much. And thank you for all that you're doing. And we just hope to see you again very soon with good news.
Anytime. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, we've got Wendy on here that we can pull in. She has a thing that she wants to talk to us about this morning. I will say today, I felt really bad because today is Julianne's normal day. Yeah. And so but because of the fact that this is so big and so bad, and we're getting so much of this, I just thought we need to pay attention to this right now.
When I'm so happy for NeAnn to just continue to ask questions and make them accountable. And I think, Jenni, I think we helped NeAnn and some other moms up there with an early open records request, like one of their first ones, like in their school library or maybe city library or something city issue. So I hope they got all that resolved too. But
I forgot about that. You're right. Good for you, Michael. You and your open records. So anybody who has open records issues, please contact Michael. He's there to help. So good deal. Okay. Well, Wendy, sorry. Tell us what's going on.
Good morning, guys. Number one, Michael, sorry about your accident, and congratulations to your daughter. Great golf player, right?
Well, my son.
Oh, your son. Sorry. Yeah. My son.
Don't misgender her.
No, I'm sorry. Please don't sue me, Michael. Yeah, my son plays baseball, and I will tell you that the first time I drove up 74 to get to the highway to go across to Enid, the wind turbines.
Yeah,
and then it was dark and we were driving back. And I understand exactly what you're saying, Jenni, with the blinking red lights.
They look like evil red eyes, like you're in hell or something. It's just awful. It really creeps me out, and I don't like being around them. Okay, tell us what you have for us today.
Yes. Election integrity. I published an article. I've been promising to do this for a few groups for a while. So finally wrote up the data on the 2022 primaries.
We got that out in our newsletter, which unfortunately was late and went out last night or this morning, but I put that in there.
Oh, okay. Thanks. But yeah, if people want to know potentially why, why we're having these issues, I'm working on the series, of course, with the nexus between elections, cartel activity, and economic ore deposits. So when NeAnn was talking solar farms, I mean, there's a laundry list of minerals here. And what you to your point, Jenni, about the mining, we have all kinds of problems when it comes to the mines, right? People were worried about strip mines for coal. They're worried about mines for this, mines for that. Well, in Oklahoma, we have one of the best deposits of zinc in the country, one of the largest deposits of zinc, and that lies under Pitcher, Oklahoma, which is right now, still
An
a
EPA
Superfund site.
Superfund site.
Yes, a Superfund site where the entire residents of that town were pretty much forced to move, were they not?
Yeah.
So that was back a few decades ago, and the place still hasn't been cleaned up. But I'm pretty sure somebody could probably buy up that land really cheap, unless the federal government wants to hang on to it, right, for some reason. And zinc is needed for solar panels, solar batteries, also electric vehicle batteries. So anywhere there is zinc deposits in the United States, people need to be watching and looking for these companies to come in and try to swoop up your land really cheap, and then basically produce these minerals at a disgusting profit, right? So there's nothing new under the sun, Jenni. So all of this issue with the money, with the green energy agenda, it's very suspicious that it's correlated with the issues with our elections. Now, for June 2022, our primary election, we had some questionable data come through, and if people want to go to our Substack and read the article, they can, and pull up the data and actually look at the data. And it wouldn't take too long, if they were looking at it, for them to sit there and scratch their heads and go, what on earth is this? Because that's what we did while we were collecting it. And the interesting thing is since that election, I go in and I collect data. You guys know this. Every election, we were doing it every election. Then it's every other election when we know it is, or something. I still do it when I feel it's important, or I think that somebody's going to be targeted, a candidate that's running, because what we find is the same thing. But with this particular phenomenon, this is the only data set I have where this has happened. So when people, when I talk to people that run the elections, they tell me that when absentee ballot numbers and early vote totals are dropped, and these are kept on a separate mobile ballot box, right, from the other election day data, because our absentee ballots are counted early,
correct,
sometimes, and so they are kept on a separate mobile
not
ballot
legally box. not unless you have permission. But yeah,
yes, and you're supposed to get permission,
as we
for
well
that,
know,
right? Because it's supposed to be done,
and not with a backdated letter of permission.
Right.
So,
not a backdated letter of permission.
Yeah.
You're supposed to get permission every election if you have to do this, not a standing agreement with the state. You need something in writing.
Right.
So when these ballots are counted, they're kept on a separate mobile ballot box, right? And everybody knows those numbers are supposed to be locked up until 7 p.m. on election night. Then they are dropped first thing, never supposed to change, right? Those are the numbers, and nothing is supposed to change with those. Those numbers are supposed to be solid, right? Well, for some reason, June 28th of 2022, when we were capturing the data coming in from the election board, I noticed, because I had been running absentee ballot numbers and doing ratios and percentages with them, trying to figure out what's going on. I noticed something. The numbers were changing. So for whatever reason, we have the initial drop, and then in the space of about an hour's time, collecting the data again, the numbers are changing. So it's twice in an hour, and then again before the final data set was set out from the election board. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on there. The absentee ballot numbers actually change from the beginning of the night to the end of the night, in some cases by as much as 40%.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And in some places, even 60%. And I actually put in my hand calculation so people can see. I use a calculator, but I do things on pen and paper too. And sometimes I think that's, kind of the best way. When it comes to electronic and computers, I think some people like to keep it because it makes us feel so much smarter, right? Because
I think it's
this thing that
easier.
computers are smarter than we are.
Yeah.
But anyway, I like to do things on pen and paper. So I've included those numbers as well. And I could not believe it. The change in the numbers was just insane. And the only person's race that didn't change, and we don't know why, is Jake Merrick's race. Jake Merrick was in that primary race against Kristen Thompson.
Correct.
And his race numbers were stopped for about 30 minutes during the reporting while other races were being reported. But the numbers in his race, they're the only ones that we were watching, that they didn't change. So his numbers were exactly the same from the beginning of the night till the end of the night. And then in the other races, which we were watching and flagging, they changed. And those races, by the way, are in the data that I was doing, the initial versus the final absentee ballot counts, and it's all in there. So we were watching the governor's race, the state auditor's race, the AG's race, state superintendent, the labor commissioner. I mean, these are all primary races too.
Yeah.
So this was not the general election. When I collected data for the general election in November, I went back to double check, and those numbers actually did stay the same. But the interesting thing about that was that we had, I think it was 27 counties or 27% of the counties that did not report initial absentee ballot numbers. Those numbers were all zeroed out. And I put in a social media post, if you live in these counties, and I spelled them out, call your county election board and ask why your initial absentee ballot numbers are not being showing up. But find out what's going on there. I literally don't have an explanation for it. And with these numbers changing, it's just one more thing. And one more reason. I mean, we have the governor's task force, which personally I believe is unconstitutional anyway. In our Constitution, the legislature runs our election board, the legislature. If they want to do anything else, they have to change the Constitution to do it. So it's not like maybe our governor shouldn't have anything. It's just we got to change the Constitution in order to do these things. And the Constitution is totally being ignored. So we're having statutes written. All of this needs to be reined in. And the governor's task force came out with a report and, of course, said that we investigated ourselves and we found that we have done nothing wrong. And, of course, you guys know that they did not talk to a single citizen who has been investigating the Oklahoma data and the voter rolls. They didn't talk to Amber Evans. They didn't talk to myself. They didn't talk to other people that are known across the state.
But Wendy,
I know.
Come on, you don't know anything.
No, I don't.
I mean, I don't know. You're just a person. I mean, you're not a state.
I know.
Official.
I'm not appointed.
So I don't even know why you come on. You're a nobody.
I know.
It's so frustrating because I was talking to Amber about that too. And between the two of you ladies, if anybody ever sat down and talked to you, if anybody who was an elected official ever sat down and talked to either one of you and had even the slightest bit of desire to do what was right for the state, they would go, holy cow, these girls, man, they've ramped up, know what they're talking about. But
no, they don't like that. As a matter of fact, they try to tell people that we're crazy or nuts or that we don't know what we're talking about, right? So
and you live rent free in Paul Ziriak's head. So.
I guess. I mean, I don't know, but what he likes to tell people is somehow I worry about fires after our election, but I do. My brother was a fireman for 20 years. That sticks out. But in a 2-hour or, all of the data that we have from all these elections, that's one slide in a presentation that can last for 2 hours that we've collected over the years on our elections. And I do find it interesting that that's what he chooses to pick out. But people across the state have heard the presentation. They have the same questions we do, and they need to keep asking their elected officials. Correct. This is just one data set, like I said, that I actually held on to it because I was waiting for anyone to show any interest in investigating the elections. So
we're going to have to get off of here in just a minute because we've got about 5 more minutes before we're at the 30-minute mark. Right. Give me your, it's Oklahoma Liberty Watch. What's
The
your
Substack.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Currently, I'm state director for Restore Liberty. So it's restorelibertyoklahoma.substack.com. And
hold on.
yes,
Restore Liberty Oklahoma.substack.com.
right.
Okay.
And then people can subscribe for free. But also, I'm going through the series right now with the Nexus on elections and cartels and ore deposits. So some of this might start coming together for people. Why do we have issues with our elected officials? Why do we have this activity going on? Why do we have all these Chinese land sales? Why do we have this? Why do we have that? Well, if you go in and you start looking for the connections are there, and people need to start looking at this, the green energy agenda. And as a geologist, I find this astounding that one model that one person did as something to be looked into, as a scientific data point to be discussed within the scientific community, has somehow ballooned to what it is now, to where people are rapidly thinking that strip mining ore deposits and minerals for these things that are non-renewable and poison the land is somehow better than what we were already doing with fossil fuels and energy and what have you. It blows my mind that somehow we're going to save the planet.
Yeah, but I want to point out that that's exactly what that very same thing is what we did with COVID. Because do not forget that one paper that was created by those two guys in England that were paid basically by, I think it was Fauci's organization, to put out what the model was going to look like for the COVID deaths. And that's what got everybody so, freaked out. Science has been obliterated from what it was and what it was meant to be, which was, like you said, you publish something, you put it out in the scientific community, you debate it, you discuss it, you experiment, you do experiments, you hypothesize. You don't do what they're doing with it now. Trust the science. The one paper that so-and-so put out, but let's not look behind the curtain to see who's paying him to do it. It's just beyond ridiculous. I just feel like every day that we wake up, we're in, what's that Mike Judge movie? Why can't I think of the name of the movie? But it's a,
I probably know the movie you're talking about too, and I can't think of it.
Yeah, I don't know why I can't think of it. It's
Idiocracy.
Thank you. We love you, Michael. Yes. I mean, you just feel like you're in Idiocracy. The boys were downstairs the other day and they had a clip of Idiocracy where it was the doctor. What's his name goes in to see the doctor, and the doctor's a kid, and he's like talking like he's a valley guy. And you're just like, yeah, we're pretty much there.
It's too much. So for 25 years, I mean, back in 1998, as a graduate student, when I'm listening to this, and as geologists, we're all discussing this in a graduate symposium as it's being presented to us. And we're like, oh, okay, well, we've got 19 natural things left out of this model that can't be included because you can't predict them, like volcanic activity. Volcanic activity is left out, which can actually cool the planet down, but it's unpredictable. So it's left out. Yeah. And then all of the sudden, people who are not scientists and they're not in the scientific field are taking this and running with it and talking about climate change and global warming and all these things, while those of us in the actual science itself are saying, hang on a second, we don't want to run with this. Why are we making policy, based on this, and just exercising caution? And then lay people, we've got kids that are worried sick, about our environment and about the climate change, and all the things that have not come true that have been predicted using these models are not pointed out. And the kids are worried in 5 years, we're all going to be flooded, or, I mean, I did as a geology student, we mapped the Paleozoic era sea level rises and falls. And if you want to see some flooding and some sea level rises and falls, go back to the Paleozoic about 250 million years ago. And that is pretty scary stuff. So it's it's very
Wait, are you telling me that climate has changed over the years, Wendy?
God
Well,
made the
that's an
climate
odd
to
thing.
change. Apparently, God made the climate to change. And
Well,
this
but
is
if you
what it
don't believe
does.
in God, you can make up your own stuff.
Oh, I know. I know. I'm a scientist. I'm not supposed to believe in God, right?
No.
But
Oh, you're
many
incompatible,
scientists
Wendy.
like
Gosh, you
myself
dork.
do. So,
All
yes,
right,
it
well,
does
let's wrap it up.
not stop.
What can we I sent I sent your Substack out this morning in
Okay.
our newsletter. If
Thank
you
you.
have not signed up for our newsletter, it's super easy to do. Just go to rope2.org. That's all you need to do. You can look on I don't know why they're not showing up. That's kind of weird. Oh, I do now it's showing up. Just go to rope2.org, and as soon as you get onto the website, a box will come up and it will say, do you want to sign up for a newsletter? Just put your email address in there and you can get the newsletter. I do my best to get it out on Mondays, but it was not cooperating. This weekend was not cooperating, and I did not get it out to this morning. But I do regularly put Wendy's Substacks and our other regular contributor, V1SUT, at Vantage. I put them in the newsletter so that you can see those if you don't subscribe to each one themselves. So there you go. All right, Wendy, anything else before we get off of here?
No, not at this time, except to say yes. People should know as well that Restore Liberty is nonpartisan. It's a nonpartisan organization, but I'm registered GOP, so I was at the convention this weekend, so I know, I'm still catching up from all that as well. So it's an interesting time, and I am just so excited to see people like NeAnn and across the state now.
Yeah.
People are getting involved in what needs to be done, and they're getting involved in their communities. And also, speaking by the way, something people need to be aware of that Amber repeats, and now I will as well. Your county commissioners are also in charge of making sure your elections are secure.
Well,
So
that's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up again.
About the elections as well as everything else, and try to ask questions and what is going on? What is going on in our counties? What is this NCOG business that people have been looking into? The issues with funding and
well, we
all
have
of these
ACOG in
Yes.
Oklahoma County. NCOG is to the east. We have ACOG here.
in Oklahoma County. People
Correct.
need to be asking questions about where this money is coming in,
Yeah.
why we're being showered with money, why counties are being approached with things like this.
Well,
And
municipalities pay a fee to be a part of ACOG. I can tell you that for a fact, since I helped sign the checks.
yes,
those
and we need to
agencies.
start asking questions as
Correct.
to, the companies that are coming in, as NeAnn has done, and all of this, and start holding people accountable and saying,
Correct.
you know what, we can't, there are things we can't tolerate anymore, because
agree.
it's getting to the point where our country is literally being stolen out from under our feet.
Under our feet.
Unfortunately, under our feet. Under our feet, Jenny. The
Yeah.
local.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Wendy. Love to see you. I'll talk to you more later. And I think I talked to you the other day, and we are going to, on June 5th, have it's June 12th. June 12th, my mom's, Sainted Mom's birthday. We are going to have a debate with Chris Powell of the Libertarian Party over why he believes that we should not re-register voters in Oklahoma. So that should be lively, and I'm very excited for us to host that. And we'll have that next month. So thanks again for being with us, Wendy, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys, and it was great to be with you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, Mr. Michael, we had a long one today, but boy, am I glad. What about you? You were very quiet.
Well,
I know you're tired, but
Oh
anything?
yeah. Well, I didn't go to bed till 2:30, but I do want
bless your
to
heart.
say a couple things. In the United States, we are the absolute cleanest producers of energy in the world, period. And I think we lose the scope of things when it comes to actual pollution. I mean, none of us like pollution. I mean, no one likes pollution. But as far as clean energy, our natural gas production of energy is literally scrubbed to where it's like water and CO2, which are two of the most important things in the entire life cycle. But to put things in perspective, because I don't think many people actually look at this, and I've looked at this multiple times, but you think about, just the cargo ships and those big bulk container ships, how much pollution, I'll just say it's pollution because there's no scrubbers on those things. They don't have catalytic converters, they don't have, that's
You're
not
right.
that. You combine those in 1 year, you literally have 500, 600 million tons of pollution coming out of those things. That's equivalent. The average car is only like 4 tons per year. So you're looking at that cargo ship business is literally 100 million cars. There's so many things.
Well, what about cruise ships too? I'm curious about that.
Oh yeah, that's not even in that number. But they're wanting to put in all these renewables, like that's going to be the answer. I mean, it's a complete whitewash. Plus, and I'll tell you this, I watched this video, I don't know, it's probably 6-7 years ago, Jenny. This was a guy on YouTube. He was one of these super green guys, man. I mean, this dude was total liberal, total everything. And he had a t-shirt on, and this video's been removed from YouTube. I cannot find it anywhere. I actually had it saved. I didn't download it, but I had it saved on my account. But he's like, I love electric vehicles, but he had a but on his shirt. Well, anyway, he did an entire hour about how bad the whole mining process, the whole battery side, the whole lithium side, the whole battery side, because that's the real issue here is we don't have a fuel cell. I mean, all these things are battery operated. I mean, when we think about their battery operated, there's major issues with these solar farms, with these inverters, with all those. There's major issues there. But when his whole presentation was, it literally takes, and he was comparing at this time the usefulness in the amount of lithium that it would take to power a car electrically compared to like a hybrid or a gas vehicle. Well, the break-even point for the lithium to even match a gas vehicle was at like 300,000 miles.
Oh my gosh!
With the amount of damage done, the amount of damage done to the environment, it would just to break even was 300,000 miles. I mean, and we forget all that because it's
wow.
It's not on the news. These things, they got kids in these mines. The amount of water that's used to develop those batteries. I mean, it just is polluted. It goes right back into their water tables all over the place, and like South America and in Africa. I mean, it is unbelievable that we actually support as a country that kind of industry, in the name of green whatever here. I mean, it is a travesty what's actually happening. Uh-oh. Jenny's on mute.
Jenny was sneezing. Didn't really want to
well,
fill everybody's ears with that.
Yeah. I was going to make a comment too when Wendy was talking about the climate was changing. As far as I know, the ice has been melting for about 10,000 or so years. I mean, we were pretty covered in ice, 10,000 years ago.
As a matter of fact, I think it was 22. What do they say? 22,000 years ago. And I don't want to get into the world is only 7,000 years old. I mean, I'm not going to debate time with people, but I can tell you that from what we know, we were covered in ice as far down as northern Oklahoma in what we consider to be 22,000 years ago. So to say that the climate is changing and it's somehow something that we have done is absolutely the most asinine bunch of BS, but we're so dumb anymore and so propagandized. We just go, oh, really? Oh, no. Oh, and it's just crazy. And then meanwhile, the Republicans who are all for business manage to pimp these businesses that are raping our communities, stealing land from private individuals and literally polluting the world the way that we know it, and somehow all of this is supposed to be fine. It's absolutely probably the pinnacle of how propagandized Americans are today that we're putting up with this. People should absolutely be coming unglued over it.
Yeah. Wild times.
All right. Well, anything else before we get off of here today?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, we have Sherry.
I'm still so bent out of shape over what NeAnn said with the promise. Okay, this is the promise of that $65 million. The promise over 30 years, you're looking at maybe $2 million, 2+. You know, that's, like she said, is going to be litigated, but ultimately the taxpayers of that whole area are the one that's going to be paying that coffer that's supposed to be coming back to themselves. I mean,
but don't forget, the McComases told us that that's what the wind turbine companies are doing as well.
Yeah.
Oh, we're promised you this big checks. We're going to write out these big checks, and you get a check. And it was, what did Jeff say? Something like $120 in 3 years or something. Well, by that time you have the damn thing sitting on your property. I mean, hello.
Wow.
I get it. It's just bad juju. All right. So Friday we'll have Sherry Conley on. We all forgot what it is that she was going to talk about. And I was going to go back and look, but honestly, spring on the farm, I never have 4 minutes to myself. So I did not get that done, but we will be having our discussion with Sherry as regular on Friday. So I hope everybody tunes in. Please, guys, take this video and share it.
Yeah, it's important.
If you don't do that, then what Michael and I are doing, and all of the time and effort that I spend putting the newsletter together and lining up guests and clipping all of these videos and getting them all out there on social media, it takes hours and hours and hours and hours of work. And if you guys don't share it, basically, I'm doing it for nothing. And when I start doing it for nothing, I'm going to quit, and you're all on your own. So please share this information. The only way we win, the only way we beat these people, the only way we beat back the darkness that's coming down upon us is by opening the eyes of others to the point that we can all push back together.
Yeah. And to see these wins from people like NeAnn, like the McComases. I mean, we've had a lot of people on here with real work. You know, they're taking action.
Yes.
You know, just a little group, you know, even one or two here or there, they're taking action. They're making a big difference.
Yes. And you can, under your feet. Don't worry about the feds. Under your feet. Worry about what's under your feet. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We had a great audience today. Thank you so much for staying with us. We really appreciate you being with us. Now, share, and we'll see you on Friday. God bless.
Thanks, everybody.